From Pandora's lush green forests to deep blue sparkling oceans, James Cameron has shown some of the best representations of indigenous cultures in Hollywood history. It's not a surprise, really. Avatar is a cultural phenomenon. But what makes it so inclusive? Isn't it just about tall blue people? Well, if you pay attention, Cameron is telling a much deeper story. It's one about humans and their greed, and how they've often used indigenous tribes to forcefully get what they want. You know who you are. The historical plight of these tribes is something Hollywood definitely doesn't discuss enough. So when the first Avatar came out, people were pleasantly surprised. It didn't caricaturize the people like all representations before did. Think of characters like Pocahontas, or the many other indigenous Disney characters shown throughout the years. The Way of Water doesn't hold back. But that's not all. In reality, indigenous tribes can't just all be lumped together. They're like all the same feather-wearing and tomahawk-throwing people shown in the media. There are a lot of differences between their tribes. Just in the US alone, there are like 574 different ones. You take a step from one settlement to the other, and you'll find out they have a different way of speaking, a way of living, a way of worship, a way of dressing, and the list goes on and on. Cameron really got that part down. As soon as you leave the Forest Tribe, we got to meet the Water Tribe that takes in Sully's family. And even though they're the same species, the first thing you'll notice is that their skin color is completely different. And that representation of real-life indigenous differences is so important, because it helps break the stereotype of one kind of indigenous. And Way of the Water just takes this one step further. So yeah, we all got the message about indigenous tribes from the first movie. But the sequel really struck a home run with this one vicious scene. Nothing helps ground a movie more than some real-life history. And that's exactly what Cameron did. One of the hardest to watch scenes in the movie was when they hunt the Tulkun. I was on the edge of my seat, just hoping against hope that the mother Tulkun and her baby would live, and even though that would have been a hooray moment on the screen, that's not how it went down for the Lakota Sioux tribe. The Lakota people lived off their land, and they took great care not to disturb the sacred bond and balance they had with their buffaloes. They only killed them when necessary. They would use every part of the animal for something useful, and when they were forced off their land, the US government carried out atrocities in order to try and stop their rebellion. They crushed their spirits exactly as they did in Avatar. They slaughtered every buffalo they could get their hands on and essentially crippled the tribe. One descendant of the Lakota tribe even spoke about it. She said that sat in the theater and actually started crying, because she was seeing history literally repeat itself. But all wasn't exactly the same. Obviously, it was idealized and romanticized a bit. The Lakota people never had the chance to fight back. They didn't have a mythical war general to help them, or any magically powerful and sentient whales to help them fight. All they had were sticks and stones, and they definitely didn't break any bones. But that was one similarity shown on screen. When Jake's children joined the fight, they didn't have any fancy guns or machines to help them overthrow the oppressors. The indigenous tribes also went through the same. When the United States came to fight with them, and mothers and fathers had to see their children go off to war, it likely meant they were going to miss lunch. They were facing guns, artillery, and cannons. It was an unfair fight, and Cameron wanted to pay respect to their history, while also expanding the native representation as much as one movie could allow. The Metkayina tribe was the perfect way to do that. It would just have been easier for the director to stay with the forest tribe of the Na'vi, in the world he had already created. One complete with a rich culture and traditions. But the culture shock was necessary. You can see immediately that the Water tribe is very different, but familiar at the same time. They have tattoos representing their connection to the sea, and physically, they also develop differently, with fins and webbed hands and feet. But one of the best moments in the movie really did put things into perspective. It's when Jake tries to ride the great Toruk. To be honest, I was expecting he was gonna get the hang of it immediately. But to my surprise, the protagonist just couldn't.
The way I had it figured, Toruk is the baddest cat in the sky. Nothing attacks him. Easy boy. So why would he ever look up? But that was just a theory.
Now, it may not seem like much, but this was an important moment. It shows how diverse these tribes are. And for many Native Americans, as well as other indigenous people, this was a huge step forward. Many tribes have shared some similarities and mythologies with each other, but when you get down to brass tacks, that's all they agree on. It's small differences like how the Metkayina had different slang than Sully's kids. That ends up meaning a lot to audiences, especially how they perceive religion. The Sully family reminded the movie of how they saw Eywa. She is supposed to be the deity of their planet. Even though the Water tribe also believed in Eywa, they just worshipped and loved her differently. They had a deeper relationship with their land and its animals. And this kind of representation and heritage is what Hollywood was lacking. But don't worry, Cameron isn't coming slow on the inclusivity train. He announced some big news for Avatar 3, saying that it would do even more for diversity on Pandora. If you thought the Water tribe from the second movie was cool, Avatar 3 is going to introduce 2 new tribes. The Omaticaya represented Earth. The Metkayina represents water. Next, we're going to see the Ash tribe of Pandora, and they're going to represent fire. And if you're smart, that leaves out only one element, even though Cameron left it a surprise. I guess that the mysterious 4th tribe we'll see is probably going to be related to air. What this could mean is that we might be getting to see some of Pandora's beautiful mountains. And if I learned anything from its namesake, Avatar: The Last Airbender, that this element is probably going to be represented in some way by the Tibetan monks. If that's the case, their culture would be so cool to see in the world of Pandora. They could play the polar opposite of the Ash tribe too. But hold up, does that mean, yep, the Ash tribe is set to be the main baddies for Avatar 3? Cameron said that, till now, we've only gotten to see bad humans and good Na'vi, but that's all about to change in the next movie. The fire-based tribe is going to show a much darker side of the planet, and it's going to expand on the lore so much more. And the director teased us some more too. We're also going to be seeing a lot more nice humans. This could mean General Quaritch could end up teaming with the Sully family, because he did show a redeemable side in the second movie. Whatever the case is, Cameron has a lot of plans to keep on including more indigenous stories in Avatar. See you in the next video.